Thank you so much, Dave. 6 minutes after 8 here at AM 1380, The Answer, and very pleased to have joining us here this morning one of my favorite guests. It's Ted Hayes of the Project 21 Leadership Network, all the way from beautiful Los Angeles, California. How are you, Ted?
I'm doing pretty good, Phil. Good morning, everybody. I'm suffering from a little bit of a laryngitis, so please bear with me.
Well, I'm sorry you're not feeling well. How's the weather down there, by the way?
It's sunny, but it's cold.
Yeah, same thing here. The sky finally cleared up, and we got rid of the clouds, and it got bitterly cold. But anyway, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Ted recently wrote a column that I picked up over at the Daily Column, at the Daily Caller, I should say, and kind of touches on something we discussed last time you were with us, Ted, about... You had made the comment that you had sent a letter to President Trump telling him that he has an opportunity to be the next Abraham Lincoln. And in this new column, you point out that in this February, which is Black History Month, instead of just, and we should, remembering the people who have furthered the black experience in this country, this February we have an opportunity with this president in place to actually improve the fortunes of the black community. And your point, Ted, is that people will just open their hearts and give the guy a shot. Am I correctly summarizing your column?
Yes, sir, absolutely. That's all that we need to do. You know, this man, Donald Trump, which I didn't pay any attention to until he decided to run for president, and he made certain statements that caught my attention, such as he said, "I'm going to build a wall." And I know in the back of his mind, he knew that illegal immigration hurts black people, particularly in the urban centers, the so-called sanctuary cities, worse than anybody else. He said that. And he said, black people, I see your condition. I see what you've been living under the Democratic Party and bigot Hillary Clinton for 40, 50, 60 years. What have you got to show for it? He said, look, guys, we Republicans haven't been here for you, but guess what? I'm here now. I want to help you. And no one has spoken to or about black people the way Trump did since Abraham Lincoln himself. I'm talking about a presidential candidate, Democrat or Republican, not since Abraham Lincoln.
Well, I'll tell you, I think was it early in the primary process, I guess, the only other candidate on the GOP side that I saw engage any kind of outreach to the black community was Rand Paul. Went and spoke, was it at Spelman?
Exactly. Correct. You know, it was during the second. I got a lot of respect for Rand Paul because of this. And I hope
me too. I thought, and at the time I was thinking, okay, the rest of you Republicans, add this to your playbook. Come on.
And you know, during the second debate, Ben Carson was standing right next to Mr. Trump, and Jake Tapper, who was the moderator, brought up the issue of the 14th Amendment, which is, of course, I call anchorism. That is, anchor babies. People saying, you know, the custom that if a woman who is here in this country illegally without official permission, if that woman has a baby within the United States of America's boundary, that child is a citizen based on the 14th Amendment. But Donald Trump said that is wrong, and he doubled down on it. He says, my turn. He just told me otherwise, and you shall soon see. Then on the far end of the stage is where Rand Paul was, and Rand Paul spoke very clear like a bell. He said the 14th Amendment is for black people. It's for the freed slaves and their descendants and no one else.
Yeah.
And of course, Paper was shocked, and he immediately changed the subject. But the hurting point was this, was our good friend Ben Carson, who is a black man and descendant of chattel slaves. He sat there dumb, did not answer. That was a chance for him to steal the narrative, but he knows nothing about that either. But Rand Paul knew it.
Yeah, and as I said, I really admired the fact that Rand Paul, who was the first among the Republicans to go out and really try and talk with the African American community here and make the case that conservative principles will afford greater economic opportunities for everybody. And Ted, if there is anything that could possibly heal the rift between the races in this country, and I don't care which race you're talking about, it's prosperity.
It helps. It helps because, take for example, and I love Mr. Trump and everyone who's saying let's get more jobs in the community, more jobs in the black community. I'm afraid just getting jobs or making jobs available in the black communities of America is not really going to solve our problem. You see, we have a problem as descendants of chattel slaves we black people have a problem, not with white people. We have a problem with ourselves. Look, the evidence of it. In the last 8 years, what you hear, or the last several years, Black Lives Matter. They yell it with anger at white people, Black Lives Matter. But guess what? They murder black people wholesale as though it was a war. You got to ask yourself the question, wait a minute, why is that? You see, Al Capone's gang in Chicago, they had jobs. They were making money.
Yeah.
Look at we have white-collar crime. You got these guys, multimillionaires, doing well in their life, but look at the crime they commit. So there's a deeper problem that the African-American leadership refuses to deal with about black people.
Well, I would certainly admit that is true. What I wonder, though, Ted, and I don't think there are nearly enough folks in the black community, although we're finding more and more, and Project 21 is one of the places where we find them, who are willing to speak truth to power, if I may use that phrase, within the lefty community, which largely controls black America. But are you starting to sense any turning of the tide in the black community? Are there more people starting to wake up to the fact that Democrats are not doing them any favors?
Yes, they are. You know, we black folks, though, we've always known that. You see, I had a conversation with a very high-profile female black congresswoman several years ago in her office here in L.A., and we talked about this Republican, Democrat treatment of black people. And I talked with another congressman from Chicago, and they admit, yes, the Democratic Party is no good for black people. They know that the Democrats held us as slaves for 245 years. They know that the Democrats created the Ku Klux Klan.
Well, then why are they still so beholden to Democrats?
Because what happened was, as Maxine, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We knew who you meant.
All right. Anyway, I'm not speaking any negative towards her because I do love Maxine Waters. But I digress. The point is, she put her head in her hands and she said, "Yeah, Ted, but you're right. But we cannot trust the Republicans." And at first, I didn't accept that at first. But then later, as I began to look into Republicancy going on in our country right now, I realized Maxine Waters was right. You cannot trust the Republicans pre-Donald Trump. I'm hoping we can trust him. But that was a problem. And also, you got to think about this, too. We black folks have always been big government people. Think about it. It was Abraham Lincoln that got us out of slavery. It was a big government that put down the Ku Klux Klan. It was a big government that put down the violation of our civil rights. And so in 1965, when King and Roy Wilkins and the Negro leaders at that time did not really know how to fix the problems in the black community having nothing to do with white people, he gave in to the socialist agenda, and that created the war on poverty, the New Deal of the New Society of Lyndon Johnson, which was the thing that totally devastated the black community to this day.
We'll have more with Ted Hayes from Project 21 right after this. We've got to catch a break here on the Phil Cowan program. I always enjoy chatting with Ted. 8:15. Happy Friday. Where it is 20 minutes past 8, and our guest is Ted Hayes of the Project 21 Leadership Network. And we were talking about your column in the Daily Caller, Ted. They're calling for the black community to just sit down and talk with the Trump administration and work with them, because this may be the best opportunity that they've had for advancement in a very, very long time.
So, Phil?
Yes, sir.
Phil, can I round this off with when you said, why won't black people accept the fact that the Democrats have destroyed them and leave the party?
Yeah.
Because this thing of big government has kind of been etched on the walls of our DNA. So we're doing things by rote. And since 1964, the Democrats, the real racist party, somehow flipped the script on Barry Goldwater and then labeled the Republican Party as racist white supremacists, and they've used it against every Republican presidential candidate since. And so we black folks, we naturally are going to follow these guys. However, a black young man called me yesterday, and he was ranting and raving about the illegal immigration and why the African-American leadership is sanctioning it and not defending us. Yes, more and more black people are waking up. Yes, on every Monday night, I have a national phone conference with blacks across the nation where we're discussing who we are in the Constitution of the United States via the 14th Amendment. We're realizing we cannot be Afrocentric and expect to get anywhere in America. We've got to go by the laws that was granted to us, these very special laws, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. So, yes, it is happening, and yes, people do have some hope in Donald Trump. It's going to take a minute, but I believe that we are going to wake up. And by the way, I think that's the reason, and I'm writing an article right now, that's the reason why the Democrats and the Socialists hate Donald Trump so much, because he has foiled their plan of taking down the United States to ignorant black people. And they're afraid that Donald Trump will wake us up and he will become the second Abraham Lincoln. That's why they hate him so much.
Well, and I think you're right about that. This just came up on the show with a caller within the last day or two, and it came out, Ted, we were talking about this issue, and I don't want to make illegal immigration the boogeyman here, but it does adversely affect the black community. And beyond that, it's not just the black community, Ted. Increasingly, it's spreading out to the culture at large. Yes, when low-wage employees flood the market, they deny opportunities to young black kids. But exactly, they're denying them to young white kids, too. And we're being raised with a whole generation of young people now, Ted, who haven't learned how to work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Of all colors and stripes.
Yes, sir. I do believe if we, the people, organize ourselves and make sure Mr. Trump lives up to his word, I think we can turn the thing around. Young people, for whatever you want to think about young people, they are honest, and they want to know the truth. They prefer you telling them the truth than to lie to them. And I think as we begin to boldly, as I've been doing here in L.A., speaking that truth, they're gravitating to it.
Well, I'm glad to hear some are gravitating to it, because I suspect that you get a lot of pushback from most of the established black leadership in the area, don't you?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm a pariah to them anyway.
I'm sure.
Since 1985. But that's okay, though, because eventually I think that even they're going to come around. Let me say something about the African-American leadership. Look, folks, I believe that if the African-American leadership, whether the clergy or the governmental elected positions, whatever, the social organizations, I believe if they really knew what to do about slave quarters, the issues of black people having a fight with black people, they would do it. They would do it. But they don't know how. And because they don't know how, they don't have enough humility to admit it and seek people who do know how to do it. So they just continue to blame the proverbial white man because it's low-hanging fruit to keep control of the black community.
Well, and that appears to be the goal for leftist government. And again, it's not just the black community. Ultimately, they want to control everybody.
Yes. Now here's something too. According to the article that we put on Daily Caller the other day, what I was getting at in this article was when Steve Harvey and Kanye West and Martin Luther King Jr. III and Alveda King and the folks that went to see Mr. Trump to work with him, and then people like Professor Ron DeMont Hill, Snoop Dogg, and John Lewis, they attacked fellow black people who wanted to work with a white guy like Abraham Lincoln to help our community. We fought for freedom against the Ku Klux Klan, whereby we can vote for, associate with, say what we please. But once we get free, it looks like those guys want to take our civil rights away from us. They are worse, therefore, than the Ku Klux Klan.
Well, and they try and achieve it by shaming those who step away from the accepted orthodoxy. And again, I think we mentioned this last time you were here, Ted. I want to see one of those guys call Jim Brown and Uncle Tom to his face.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen.
No, it's not. But and as I said before, I'm sorry. I grew up when Jim Brown was a big-time star, and Jim Brown doesn't need to prove his African-American bona fides to anybody. Right.
I agree. And this has been even with me. They will talk about me behind my back, and I have offered. I said, "Come on, guys, let's sit down, let's dialogue, let's work it out." But they will not confront me to my face, basically because they're cowards and they really don't know what to do.
Yeah, sadly, that is the case. I fear that a lot of this, and you've said it before, it amounts to political cowardice.
Yes, sir.
I wish we could call it something else, Ted, but I think that's what it is.
Yes, and again, like I said, they don't know what to do. I'm a guy who has studied my people for quite a while. I've done research and history, and living among the homeless voluntarily in downtown L.A., I saw a side of our nature as black folks that really educated me as to what we must do to rectify our situation. Yes, jobs, opportunities. Yes, Mr. Trump, bring those in the community. Yeah, there'll be those people who will take advantage of all of that. But then again, there is a large enough element within the community. They're not going to do right until the wound, the self-inflicted wound in our soul that we inflicted upon ourselves in Africa, what our ancestors did to ourselves. White people did not put us on the slave ships. It was black people, people that looked like me, who hated one another, who put us on the slave ships. And that's the issue that we have never, as a people, dealt with. And you beautiful white folks, you've done everything you can. You fought a war. You gave us the civil rights laws. You gave us affirmative action. You gave us a holiday called Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. You gave us a black president, okay? But look, has it made us any better? No. We have gotten worse. So it's not a matter of giving us things to play with. It's a matter of black leadership and black clergy getting down into the soul of black people and helping us to heal ourselves, by God, from the damages that we inflicted upon ourselves. Again, we yell at white people, Black Lives Matter, but we turn right around and kill ourselves. There's a sickness there that needs to be healed.
You know what? It takes courage to speak the truth, Ted, and that's one of the things I admire about you, because all of that is absolutely true. Ted Hayes, always a pleasure. Get to feeling better, my friend.
I certainly will. And everybody up in Sacramento, wherever you're listening from, thank you, and God bless you, and keep your heads up, because we are we the people. Remember, Donald Trump challenged us on Inauguration Day. He says, this is your country, this is your government. You need to step forward with big ideas and bigger dreams, and that's what we have to do, folks.
Bless your heart, Ted. Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Phil.
All right, you take care. 8:29 a.m. 1380. The Answer here on the Phil Cowan program. News coming up next.